ಸೊ ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ನಮಸ್ಕಾರಗಳು. ಇಂದಿನ ಪ್ರತಿಭಾ ಶೋಧ ಯೋಜನೆಯ 85ನೇ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮದಲ್ಲಿ ಶ್ರೀಮತಿ ನೇತ್ರಾರವರು ರೀಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್ ಎಂಬ ವಿಷಯದ ಮೇಲೆ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ನೀಡಲಿದ್ದು, ಅವರನ್ನ ಈ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಲೆಯ ವೇದಿಕೆಗೆ ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ಐ ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ವೆರಿ ಮಚ್ ಸರ್.
ಹಾಗೂ ಇಂದಿನ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮಕ್ಕೆ ಎಲ್ಲ ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿ ಮಿತ್ರರು, ಅಧ್ಯಾಪಕರು, ಶಿಕ್ಷಕರು ಹಾಗೂ ನನ್ನ ಸಹೋದ್ಯೋಗಿಗಳನ್ನು ಕೂಡ ಈ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಲೆಗೆ ನಾನು ಸ್ವಾಗತಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇನೆ. ವೆಲ್ಕಮ್ ಟು ಒನ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಆಲ್. ಹಾಗೂ ಸಮಯಾವಕಾಶ ಅವರಿಗೆ 1 ಗಂಟೆ ಮಾತ್ರ ಇರುವ ಕಾರಣ ನೇರವಾಗಿ ಈ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಮಾಲೆಯ ಪ್ಲಾಟ್ಫಾರ್ಮ್ನ ನೇತ್ರ ಅವರಿಗೆ ಬಿಟ್ಕೊಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ. ಓವರ್ ಟು ಯು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
Thank you, sir. Good happy new year to all the students also. I would like to start the topic. The topic given to me is reproduction in humans. So what I'm going to be discussing here is this. In this topic, we are going to be covering anatomy of male and female reproductive system, spermatogenesis and oogenesis, structure of sperm and ovum, phases of menstrual cycle, fertilization, implantation, parturition, and lactation. Now, coming on to the next slide. When you talk about human reproduction is a very integrated, a very complex process. It includes the anatomy of the male and the female reproductive system. It includes the gametogenesis, the fusion of sperm and ovum, the attachment of the ovum or the fertilized zygote to the wall of the endometrium, and then the development of the fetus. Now, in brief, if you talk about human reproduction, it is a very complex process showing internal fertilization with direct development. That means there is no larva. There is no larva between the zygote and the adult. It is direct. The zygote directly develops into an adult. Now, when you talk about the humans, the males and females are separate. We can differentiate between a male and a female by the sexual morphological characters. Now, the first part is the reproductive anatomy of human male. The human male reproductive system comprises of the gonads, the axillary ducts, the glands, and the external genitalia. The gonads include a pair of testes, which is present outside the body of the males. In case of males, the testis is present in a bag-like structure called as the scrotum, because the body temperature is 25 degrees. But for the spermatogenesis to take place, it requires 2 degrees to 2.5 degrees less than the body temperature. So therefore, the testis is descended outside from the abdominal cavity inside the scrotum. In some children, in some infants, there might be abnormalities. The abnormalities are the testis would have not descended out. It might remain in the abdominal cavity, which is called as cryptochidism. Okay, so let us move on to the next slide. So this is the male reproductive system diagram, what you can see in the slide. This is the testis, which is nothing but the primary sex organs, and these are the axillary ducts. And here you can see the glands, that is the prostate gland, the bulbourethral gland, and the seminal vesicle, and this is the external genitalia. Now, going on to the next slide, here you can see this is the overall view of the testis. So when you see the testis here, the testis is made up of many coiled tubules, which are called as seminiferous tubules. So these seminiferous tubules are about millions in number, which produce the male gamete, that is the sperms. Now these sperms once produced in the seminiferous tubules, will enter into the rete testis. From then, they are carried to epididymis, then to vasa efferentia, and then to vasa deferens. So, therefore, the axillary ducts of male includes rete testis, vasa efferentia, epididymis, vasa deferens. So, this can be asked for 2 marks. This question can be asked for 2 marks, which is related to the diagram. Okay, so let us move on to the further. It takes about 20 days for the sperms to be produced in the testis. Now, these sperms, once they are produced, will not be having the motility character. They attain the motility character, and that is called as the capacitation. So you can see what is capacitation. It is nothing but the ability of the sperm to gain motility is what is called as the capacitation. Moving on to the next slide. Here, now, once the sperms are produced in the testis, they are moved through the axillary ducts. From the axillary ducts, they are going to reach the ejaculatory duct. Now, here in the ejaculatory duct, the sperms are going to mix up with the semen produced by the axillary glands. Remember, every ejection will produce about 50 to 130 million sperms for 1 ml of the semen. Next, when you talk about the axillary glands include seminal vesicle, which produces the fluid, yellow fluid called as semen. This semen will have fructose, which provides energy for the sperm to move. Now, the question is, which is the energy molecule which provides energy for the sperm to move? Is it fructose or glucose? Can anyone answer? Is it fructose or glucose? Anyone? Okay, it is fructose. Remember, in sperms, it is fructose which provides energy for the sperm motility and not glucose. The next gland is prostate gland. The prostate gland also contributes about 40% of the semen. Okay, and then it will also produce an anticoagulating enzyme which prevents the coagulation of the semen. The next gland is bulbourethral gland. The bulbourethral gland produces mucus which provides lubrication during ejaculation. Now, what is ejaculation? Ejaculation means the release of the sperms from the male body is called as ejaculation. Now, now, uh, until now, we discussed about the male reproductive system. Now, if you see here you can see this is the external genitalia. Now, here this is called as the penis. The penis comprises of the rich blood tissue, which will help in erection of the penis during the sexual arousal. At the same time, the penis is covered by a skin which is called as glans penis, which protects the penis from infections. Next. Now, moving on to the next part, that is the female reproductive system. Now, here if you see, the female reproductive system comprises of the female gonads, the axillary ducts, the axillary glands, and external genitalia. Now, female gonads, that includes, yeah, you can see these are nothing but the female gonads, that is a pair of oval shaped structures called as ovaries. So these ovaries will produce the female gametes, that is nothing but the ovum. Okay. Now, in addition to that, we also have the axillary ducts. So there are axillary ducts. Okay. So the axillary ducts are nothing but the oviduct, which is also called as fallopian tube, and then the uterus. So these form the axillary ducts. If you see here, the axillary ducts include the oviduct or the fallopian tube. The fallopian tube, the main function of fallopian tube is to carry the ovum or the fertilized egg or the ovum towards the uterus. It carries the fertilized ovum towards the uterus. This is the main function of the fallopian tube, which is also called as oviduct. Now, the speciality of the oviduct is it is internally lined by ciliated columnar epithelium. Now, my question is, what is the lining present in the oviduct? Is it columnar or ciliated? Anyone, please answer. Is it ciliated or columnar? The answer is ciliated columnar epithelium. Why? Because they have to carry the egg from the ovary towards the uterus. So that is why they have ciliated columnar epithelium. Now, coming on to this oviduct, the oviduct is made up of three portions. This first part is called as infundibulum, which has finger-like projections called as fimbriae. Very important for the exam. The fimbriae are finger-like projections which are going to grasp the egg after ovulation. So this you have to remember. The second part is the curved part. What you can see in the diagram is called as the ampulla, where actually the fertilization of the egg takes place. The next part, the straight tube, what you can see is called as the isthmus. So, the fallopian tube comprises of three parts: the infundibulum, the ampulla, and the isthmus. Now, coming on to the glands. What are the glands present in the female reproductive system? Now, when you see here, the glands present here are the Bartholin's gland and the mammary glands. The Bartholin glands are nothing but small glands which are present in the vagina, and they produce mucus to provide lubrication during the sexual arousal. So that is the main function of Bartholin's gland. The next gland is mammary gland. So this is very, very important for the exam, the mammary glands. The mammary glands are present both in males and in females. Both males and females both have these mammary glands. But it is only functional in females because because of the hormone called as prolactin. So this prolactin hormone makes the female mammary glands to become functional. Now, what is the main reason of mammary glands? The mammary glands produce milk to nourish the young ones. Okay. Now, these mammary glands are nothing but modified sweat glands of your skin. So, some sweat glands of your skin in the breast region gets modified into mammary glands, which serve the purpose of producing the milk to nourish their young ones. Now, coming on to the structure of the mammary glands, if you see here, the mammary glands are present in the chest region. So, therefore, you can see the cut bones, the rib bones which are there. Then it is covered by fats to protect it from damage. And then you have many sacs which you can see. They are called as mammary alveolus, which will produce the milk. These alveolus are interconnected to a lobe called as mammary lobes, and they are connected to mammary duct, then lactiferous glands, and last it opens to nipple. Now, the mammary glands outside are darkly pigmented around the nipple region, which is called as areola. And this areola will provide lubrication during the suckling of the milk by the fetus. Now, remember, students, these mammary glands can be asked in the exam for 5 marks. So, it's a very important question. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. The next slide is okay, so this is the female reproductive system. Now, if you see here, now you can see the cervix. Now, cervix is the opening of the uterus, and the vagina is the opening of the entire female reproductive system. Remember, this is also very important for the exam for 5 marks. So, this is a very important question. And here, the either male reproductive system or female reproductive system or mammary glands will be a compulsory question in your exam under skills, which are called as HOTS. HOTS means higher order thinking skills. So that means they're going to ask this question under skill part. Okay, so please remember and practice these diagrams because it's a compulsory question. Now, coming on to the next concept, gametogenesis. What is gametogenesis? We all know it is nothing but production of the gametes. Now, where are the gametes produced? The gametes are produced in the gonads. Correct? So, that means the testis produces the sperms, which is called as spermatogenesis, and the ovary produces the egg, which is called as the oogenesis. So, that is about the spermatogenesis. Now, let us talk in detail about the spermatogenesis. So here you can see the flow chart of spermatogenesis, and here you can see the spermatogenesis is produced in 20 days. So for one spermatogenesis cycle to take place, it needs 20 days for one spermatogenesis cycle. Now, the spermatogenesis in case of males starts after puberty, that is after 13 or 14 years of the male adult, they start with the spermatogenesis process. It starts in the testis. So you can see here, this is the section of the testis where you can see that there are what are called as the primordial germ cells. So these are the primordial germ cells. These primordial germ cells will undergo further division and they produce the haploid sperms. Now, the spermatogenesis can be divided into two stages. One, formation of spermatids. Two, spermiogenesis. Now, formation of spermatids includes multiplication phase and maturation phase. The multiplication phase will have multiplication of the germ cells to produce primary spermatocytes. The germ cells will undergo continuous mitotic division and they will be producing the diploid primary spermatocytes. Now, these diploid spermatocytes, primary spermatocytes, will enter into the maturation phase. The maturation phase includes first meiotic division, okay, where it results in secondary spermatocytes, right? Now, these secondary spermatocytes will enter into second meiotic division and produce non-motile, non-functional spermatids. Now, these spermatids will undergo series of changes where they lose the cytoplasm, they get a tail, they get a neck, and they also get acrosomal cap. And that's how you will get the functional sperm. This is the spermatogenesis. Now, students, please remember spermatogenesis question will be asked under schematic representation. So, schematic representation carries 3 marks. So, this you should remember. Now, let us move on to the next slide. That is the structure of the spermatozoa. Now, here you can see the slide having the sperms, and this is the ultra structure of sperms. You can see the sperms are very small. If you see here, this is the actual structure of sperm. The sperm is ultra microscopic, produced in millions, okay, and these have the body divided into head, neck, middle piece, and the tail piece. The head comprises of the nucleus carrying the haploid father chromosomes with a cap called as acrosomal cap having hydrolytic enzymes to penetrate into the egg. The middle piece has the mitochondria which are arranged spirally, which provides energy for the motility of the sperm. Then we have the tail region. So this is the structure of the sperm, which can also be given for 5 marks or for 3 marks. So Human reproduction chapter is completely about diagrams related questions. Okay, so let us move on to the next slide, that is oogenesis. So if you see here, the oogenesis is nothing but it is the development of the egg, from the ovary. So the inside the ovary, the egg will be formed. Now, the oogenesis starts from the fetal stage. This you have to remember. The oogenesis starts from the fetal stage. Once the fetus is decided to be a female, the fetus starts producing the eggs. By here, if you see here, the eggs are produced in a very limited number. The sperms are produced in millions, but the eggs are produced in limited number. What might be the reason for that? To check the population. If more number of sperms and more number of eggs are produced, both are going to get fertilized, the population cannot be checked. So in order to check population, the oogenesis undergoes, the egg is produced in few numbers, whereas the sperm is produced in millions to have a competition. Now, let's get into the spermatogenesis. The oogenesis. The oogenesis comprises of 3 steps. One is multiplication phase, growth phase, and maturation phase. Multiplication phase means the primordial germ cells, which are also called as oogonial cells, will undergo continuous mitotic division and produce primary oocyte. Now, this primary oocyte will develop into, will enter into maturation phase and form into, it will undergo first meiotic division to form 2 unequal sized cells. So you can see there is a small circle and a large circle. The small circle is nothing but the first polar body, which is of no use. The second structure, what you can see, is the secondary oocyte, which carries the mother characters. Now, this secondary oocyte will undergo second meiotic division only when the sperm fertilizes the egg. Remember, I'm saying once again, only when the sperm fertilizes the egg, the secondary oocyte will form into ovum. If not, no, they will degenerate. Now again, when the secondary oocyte undergoes division, it will form into the ootid or ovum and second polar body. So, if I want to conclude with the spermatogenesis and oogenesis, spermatogenesis takes place in males, oogenesis takes place in females. Spermatogenesis starts from the puberty stage, oogenesis starts from the fetal stage. During spermatogenesis, from one spermatogonia, you'll get 4 sperms, whereas from one oogonia, you'll get only 1 egg. Now, you can see that the number of egg is very less. So therefore, the egg has to be protected. So what they do here is the eggs are going to be produced by a covered structure called as the follicles. So in case of mammals, the eggs are protected by many layered structure called as Graafian follicles. So these Graafian follicles are going to carry the haploid egg in them. Now, the slide what you're seeing is the structure of the haploid egg. So you can see here the haploid egg is oval in shape. It is not like sperm. It is oval in shape and it has the plasma membrane. It has the ooplasm carrying the nucleus, which has the mother chromosomes. Okay. And then surrounding the egg, you can see 2 membranes. One, the blue, and another one with the orange color cells. Now, the blue one is called as a zona pellucida. Zona pellucida is the egg membrane. It is a primary egg membrane. Remember, this can be asked in MCQ questions. So, the zona pellucida forms the primary membrane, and then you can see the radiating cells. These are nothing but the corona radiata. These form secondary egg membrane. So, this is the structure of the human ovum. So now, until now, we have studied about anatomy of male and female reproductive system, spermatogenesis, oogenesis, structure of sperm, and structure of ovum. Now, let us move on to a very important topic, which is for both exam and for the studies also. That is normal menstrual cycle. What is menstrual cycle? Okay. Now, when you talk about this menstrual cycle, we have a lot of questions running out in our mind. Now, menstrual cycle is nothing but it is periodic changes which occurs in ovaries and uterus simultaneously. The changes will occur both in ovaries and uterus only in non-pregnant females of primates. So only primates undergo this menstrual cycle, not all mammals. Please don't have that misconception. Only primates will undergo menstrual cycle, and that too non-pregnant females will undergo menstrual cycle, and the entire process is controlled by hormones produced in the pituitary gland. Now, if you want to say it in one mark, what do you say? Periodic changes occurs in ovaries and uterus of non-pregnant females under the hormonal control of the pituitary gland. So this is what you have to say. Now, how many days can you see this menstrual cycle? The menstrual cycle occurs for about 28 to 31 days in a normal, healthy female. Now, what are the phases of the menstrual cycle? If you see, now, when does the menstrual cycle start? The menstrual cycle starts at the age of the puberty. So, once they start with the puberty, the menstrual cycle is going to start up. Once the menstrual cycle starts, the eggs are going to be released from the ovary, from both the ovaries simultaneously. So, one menstrual cycle, right ovary, the next menstrual cycle, left ovary will release the eggs. Now, very important for the exam, the phases of the menstrual cycle. There are 4 phases of menstrual cycle, that is menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulatory phase, and post-ovulatory phase. Now, when you talk about menstrual phase, the menstrual phase is indicated by the shedding of the endometrium. The endometrium is going to be shed off, which results in bleeding or menstruation. This starts from first day to fifth day, and it is because of the failure of the fertilization of the ovum. Okay, so the first phase is menstrual phase, which starts from first day to fifth day. It is characterized by menstruation process. Now, the second phase is the follicular phase. There are many names for that. Follicular phase or proliferative phase or pre-ovulatory phase. So you can give any name here. Now, what is the main event taking place here is in the follicular phase, the follicles are developed. So inside the ovaries, the follicles will develop and form into Graafian follicle. Okay. Now, why is it called as proliferative phase? In the endometrium, the blood vessels again grow up and they form a thick layer. So if you see here, you can see this slide shows how the endometrium is becoming thick again. So, and at the same time, you can see that there is formation of Graafian follicle also, right? So, during the follicular phase, what actually happens is the follicles develop and form into Graafian follicle. The endometriums again proliferate. So, that is why it is called as proliferative phase, or it is also called as the uh, follicular phase or proliferative phase. The second phase, the third phase is what? The main phase, ovulatory phase. So here, if you see the graph here, the LH hormone is at the peak in this slide. You can see the LH hormone is at the peak. So that is because during this process, the LH hormone will hike up and resulting in the release of the egg. You can see the egg has come out here. Okay, and this process is called as ovulation. The rupture of the ovary and release of egg is called as ovulation, which takes place because of hike in the LH, and this process is called as LH surge. Very important for the exam. Now let us go back. I'm sorry. Now, the next phase is the post-ovulatory phase, which is also called as luteal phase. Now, during this phase, the egg is going to come out Now the remains of the Graafian follicle will form into a structure called as carpus luteum. Now this carpus luteum, if the egg undergoes pregnancy, will produce a hormone called as progesterone. Now, if the egg is not fertilized, then the corpus luteum will be thrown out of the body as white body. Sorry. So this is about the menstrual cycle. The menstrual cycle includes 4 phases: menstrual phase, follicular phase, ovulatory phase, and luteal phase. So this is about the menstrual cycle. Now, here you can see this. This is a very important slide which I wanted to show you, because here you can see they have done laparoscopy, where you can see this is the ovary and this is the follicle which is throwing out the egg. You can see the egg is coming out from the follicle, and during the 14th day, every female usually will feel a pain. Okay, when the egg is coming out, they usually feel the pain. But what happens when we are doing our work, we will not be able to recognize that pain. So that is because the entire ovary will rupture and it will release the egg. So this is a very beautiful slide what I have, which shows ovulation process in uh, human. Next. So I hope you have understood this menstrual cycle, right? So let us move on to, this is also one diagram which I wanted to show, where you can see different stages of the of the follicle and how you have the formation of corpus luteum and all that. Okay. Now let us go on to the next thing. Now the egg is ready. Okay. So the sperm is going to be ejaculated from the males. Now what is going to happen? The next thing is fertilization. So what is fertilization? You all know, fusion of male and female gamete to produce diploid zygote is called as the fertilization process. So you will get a zygote, a diploid zygote, which will carry both the mother character and the father character, which has a mixture of both mother and father characters. Now let us understand how it is undergoing, how the fertilization takes place. So here I have a very beautiful slide which shows how the fertilization takes place. See here, you can see the sperm is coming towards the egg. Okay, once the sperm comes to the egg, you can see there is release of red molecules. So those are nothing but, the red molecules are nothing but the hydrolytic enzymes which are produced by the acrosome. So they will dissolve the egg membrane. You can see the next slide. They'll dissolve the egg membrane and they will make the sperm. You can see the sperm head is entering. You can see the sperm head is entering into the egg. Okay. So here you can see this is a clear diagram. So you can see here the nucleus and the proximal centriole have come inside into the egg. So once this is formed, once one sperm enters into the egg, there is formation of a fertilization membrane which will not allow another sperm to enter. Okay. So in this slide, you can see that in this slide, you can see that the sperm is completely entered into the egg and there is formation of the fertilization membrane which will not allow other sperms to enter, which is also called as to prevent polyspermy. Okay. So next, moving on to the slide. Now, what actually happens in mammals? So in mammals, what I said, the sperms are going to enter into the egg. Once they enter into the egg, there is formation of fertilization membrane, and that is how the egg will form into a zygote. So here, after fertilization, what is going to happen? So this is the zygote. Okay, so you can see this is a zygote. Now this zygote will undergo a process called as cleavage. Very important, cleavage. Cleavage means it is continuous mitotic division. Continuous mitotic division which results in a lump of cells called as blastula. So cleavage will result in a ball of cells or a lump of cells which are called as blastula. So I'll show you the diagram of blastula. You can see here, this is the structure of blastula. The blastula has outer layer of cells called as trophoblast with the inner mass of cells called as embryoblast. The function of trophoblast is to make the zygote or the blastocyst to attach to the wall of the endometrium. That is the main function of trophoblast. The embryoblast will take care of the formation of the organs in the future. Then you can see a small cavity here, which is called as blastocele. Now, here it is written as blastocyst, correct? Now, why is the blastula in humans called as blastocyst? Because this blastocyst, I'll show it in the next slide. You can see the blastocyst gets attached to the wall of the endometrium. It is forming into a cyst. You can see here the cell mass is coming towards the endometrium. It is forming into finger-like projections, and you can see it is embedded into the endometrium. Now, the attachment of the embryo to the wall of the endometrium is called as implantation. So this is a very important definition. I repeat once again, the attachment of the zygote or the blastocyst to the wall of the endometrium is called as implantation. Now, after implantation, what is the next step? After implantation, the extra embryonic membranes are going to be formed around the egg to protect the egg. Now, what are that extra embryonic membranes? Let's see that. You have the chorion, which helps in exchange of gases. You have the amnion, which fills, which has amniotic fluid, which protects the entire fetus. And then you have the yolk sac, which encloses the yolk. But remember, in case of human, the yolk is absent. Actually, it is very less or least because the food for the fetus will be got from the mother itself. Now you also have the allantois. This allantois will produce waste, which it will dispose the waste from the fetus. Now after this, what is going to happen? After the egg membranes are formed, the next process is organogenesis. So inside the embryoblast, you will have many layers of cells: ectoderm, endoderm, and mesoderm. Now these layers will form designated organs. Okay, the ectoderm will result in the formation of brainstem. The endoderm will give rise to stomach. The mesoderm will produce the cartilage tissue. So like that, every membrane is designated with its own organs to be formed, and that is called as organogenesis. Now, after organogenesis, you can see that, yes, this is all the slides showing the implantation process. So remember, implantation, I'll repeat, see here, the implantation will take after 7 days of fertilization. This can be asked as a question. Okay, so how many days are required for the implantation? After how many days of fertilization, the implantation is going to be taking place? 1, 4, 7, 5. The answer is 7 days. After 7 days, the implantation will take place. Now, let us come to the next important structure which actually protects the fetus is the placenta. So placenta is the organic connection between the mother and the fetus. So this placenta acts as a wall between the mother and the fetus, and it provides all the things what the mother gets. So whatever the mother gets will be given to the fetus through this placenta. So you can see this is the placental tissue. Okay, and here you can see mixing of both maternal blood and the fetal blood. Maternal means mother blood, fetal blood means child blood. So both are going to be mixed here. Now, very important question for the exam is functions of placenta. What does the placenta do? As I said, it is a nutritive organ. It provides nutrition to the developing fetus. Okay. The second function is it excretes the nitrogenous waste. So it acts as fetal kidney because kidney will not be developed in the fetus. So therefore, the placenta will remove the nitrogenous waste and carbon dioxide from the fetus through this placenta. Now, very important is it acts as an endocrine organ. How? It produces majorly 4 hormones: progestogens, estrogens, HCG, and HPL. The full form of HCG is human chorionic gonadotrophin, which is the main hormone to detect if the female is pregnant or not. And the next one is HPL, human placental lactogen, which will trigger the prolactin to produce the milk. Now, so remember, once again, I'm going to repeat, very important for the exam, the hormones produced by the placenta, that is progestogens, estrogens, HCG and HPL. So these are the 4 hormones produced by the placenta only during the pregnancy. Now, what is the next function of placenta? It acts as a respiratory part. It helps in exchange of oxygen and carbon dioxide between the mother and the fetus. Now, another important function is it is a barrier. It acts as a wall against the antigens. So, no antigens can cross the placenta and infect the child. Okay, but what is happening here is, but HIV, sexually transmitted diseases, the viruses which cause STDs can pass through the placenta, whereas other diseases like common cold or any other diseases cannot enter through the placenta. Only the STDs means that is HIV, herpes, okay, hepatitis. So there are some diseases which can cross this placenta and infect the fetus, but not other diseases. Now, very important, it also helps in diffusion of substances. Food and other things can be diffused easily through the placenta. Remember, students, this is very, very important for the exam. Placenta and its function for 5 marks. Now, let's go to the next slide. So, here you can see the different fetal development of the human fetus. You can see in the 5 weeks, only the heart is developed and with the blood vessels. You can see in the second to fourth week, you can see the limbs are developed, the eyes are also developed. In 20 weeks, the entire body is only developed, and we can also decide the sex of the individual. Now, this is very important. So, this already is discussed. Now, this is very important for the MCQ questions, both for C. So, please remember this part. So, what I'm discussing here is developmental changes in fetus. What happens actually in those pregnancy time? So, we all know that the pregnancy takes for 9 months. So, the entire 9 months can be divided into 3 trimesters. From the first to third month is called as first trimester. From fourth, fifth, and sixth is called as the second trimester. Seventh, ninth is called as the third trimester. Now, after first month, I told heart will be developed. So, the first organ to be developed is the heart. Okay. So, therefore, usually after 2 months, they go for radiology to check the heartbeat of the fetus. Okay. Next is the end of the second month, the limbs and the digits are all formed. The end of the 12 weeks means after first trimester, the reproductive organs will be developed. Okay. So, therefore, they usually ban the detection of the sex of the fetus at that time. Why? Because at that time, we can recognize the fetus. So, if it is female, the parents would go for female feticides. So, that is why the techniques are being banned. So, remember, in the first trimester itself, the sex organs are formed, so you can decide the sex of the child. The 5th month, you can see the movement of the fetal movements can be recognized by the mother, and the body or the head will be covered by the hairs. At the end of the second trimester, the entire body will be covered by the hairs. The eyelids are formed, the eyelashes are also formed. At the end of the 9th month, the baby is ready for the delivery. So this is very, very important for the exam, especially for CET and NEET. Now, let us come to the next important part, that is parturition. So what is parturition? Parturition means it is nothing but it is a long process where the mother tries to give birth to the young one after gestation period. Now, what is gestation? From the formation of the zygote till the formation of the young one inside the uterus is what is called as gestation period, and it varies from organism to organism. Now, if you take in case of elephants, it is 12 months, more than 12 months. So they have a longer gestation period. Whereas in only 9 months. This can be asked in MCQ questions like the gestation period of the human female. So human female gestation period is how much? Yes, it is. Let us understand how the parturition process takes place, how the mother is going to deliver her child. So here you have a very simple cycle which tells us how should be first the fetal ejection reflex. Now, what is this fetal ejection reflex? The fetus will try to push will try to push the, you can see the fetus is trying to push the endometrium, that is the myometrium. You can see there are muscles, uterine muscles. So these uterine muscles are going to be pushed by the, and that is the first signal for the fetus to come out. Now, once the fetus tries to undergo this contraction, then from there is release of estrogens from the ovaries. Now, these estrogens will induce the formation of oxytocin receptors on the uterus. Means these estrogens will make the uterus to accept the oxytocin. What is oxytocin? Oxytocin is a birth hormone which is produced by the posterior pituitary gland. Okay. Now, these oxytocin, what it will do? It will further stimulate the uterine contraction. The uterus contraction will become more vigorous or more. Now, then what happens? The oxytocin will also stimulate the placenta to produce prostaglandins. Now, what will this prostaglandins do? The prostaglandins will again increase the uterine contraction. So already the uterine contraction is increased by the fetus, and again it is increased by the oxytocin. By the production of prostaglandin, the uterine contraction becomes more. Now here you can observe plus. Plus indicates positive feedback mechanism. That means here the oxytocin is positively triggering the fetus to come out of the uterus. So once all these actions takes place, what happens? The fetus will come out from the mother's body. Okay, so this is a very vigorous process which takes place in humans. So during the fetal ejection reflex, okay, the mother will undergo a vigorous pain which is called as labor pain. Okay, usually in Kannada they say second birth for the mother. Why? Because during this pain, the pain of the mother is equal to fracture of 20 bones. It is like 20 bones breaking at one time is equal to one labor pain. So therefore they usually say in Kannada mamaru janma anta karitare. Why? Because it is a second birth of the mother, because she feels that vigorous pain. Okay, so usually during normal birth this cycle takes place. Okay, so estrogens are produced, they will produce oxytocin receptors. The oxytocin will stimulate uterine contraction and the baby is going to come out. This is normal delivery. But if the fetal has some problem in coming out, okay, if the head is not fixed, you can see this is the opening called as vagina. If the head is not fixed in the it is not fixed towards the vagina, the head is somewhere else, here or here, then what happens? The doctors will advise for cesarean means cutting with the scissors. Very simple. They cut the body of the mother and take out the baby. Okay, why? Because the oxytocin is not produced in equal amount. I'm sorry. Now, what will the doctors do? The doctors will give oxytocin injections. Frequently, they keep giving oxytocin injections, and that will make the fetus to come out of the mother's womb. Right. Now, so that is how the parturition process takes place, which is a very tedious process where the mother feels a lot of pain. Now, this is what you can see. The child is coming out from the mother's body through the vaginal opening. Okay. Next, the last topic of this is lactation. So what is lactation? Lactation means production of milk. Milk being produced by the females in the mammary glands is called as lactation. Okay, there's a simple cycle what I want to show you. See how the milk is produced. So when you see here, the baby has to suck the breast to get the milk. So remember, the suckling of the milk by the baby is the stimulus for the mother to release the milk from the mammary glands. Now, the mammary glands are going to produce the milk under the influence of the prolactin hormone. But the milk has to be ejaculated. For the ejaculation of milk, they should produce another hormone called as oxytocin. So oxytocin has two works. One is birth of the child and the other one is release of the milk from the mammary gland. So therefore, oxytocin is called as birth hormone and also has milk ejection hormone. Okay. Now what happens here is once the baby starts sucking the breast, okay, the suckling will stimulate the hypothalamus to produce it will stimulate the pituitary gland. The pituitary gland will in turn produce oxytocin. The oxytocin will stimulate the mammary glands to produce the milk, and that milk will be released from the mother's breast, and that is how she's going to be feeding her child. Now, in this process, you have to be remembering about one point, that is colostrum. Now, what is colostrum? Colostrum is nothing but a nutritive milk which is produced only for about 2 to 3 days by the milk by the mother. So for only 2 to 3 days, yellowish transparent fluid will be produced, a viscous fluid will be produced by the mother, which is rich in antibodies. So this will protect the fetus for the next 2 years. For the next 2 years, the fetus which is without immune system will be protected by the antibodies given for the mother. So I hope you will be, your ancestors will be saying, your grandparents will be saying, you have to feed the child for 2 years. Why? Because for that 2 years, the child will be receiving the antibodies. Whatever the antibodies are there in the mother's body will all be given to the child and it will be protected. After 2 years, the immune system would have developed and the child will be ready to face the antigens which are around us. So remember, the colostrum is very important because it is rich in antibodies and the milk of the mother is always called as amrita. Why? Because it is the one which protects the child from all the antigens which it is going to be facing throughout its life. Okay, so this is about the human reproduction which I have tried to convey to you. Okay, now here I want to discuss some important questions related to human reproduction chapter. Now, I'm sorry. Now, before going to that, I want to just tell you that human reproduction chapter is for 11 marks. So we all know already the blueprint has come. So for 11 marks, we have the human reproduction chapter. Two MCQs are going to be coming from the human reproduction chapter. One small question is going to be coming and one HOTS will be coming. HOTS means higher order thinking skills. Skill-based questions are going to be asked from this. So remember, 11 marks are coming from this chapter, that is human reproduction. So you cannot ignore this chapter. It is for 11 marks. Now, coming on to MCQ questions, you have the first question. Here you have given, here they have given below this chart. They have given a chart here. So they have given primary follicle giving rise to Graafian follicle. The Graafian follicle is giving rise to ova. The ova is giving rise to corpus luteum. So we have to tell what is that A, B and C. So they have given A, B and C. We have to say what is A, B and C. Okay. So the answer is primary follicle forming into Graafian follicle is stimulated by, we all know, FSH. So FSH is also called as follicle stimulating hormone. So that will stimulate the primary follicle to form into Graafian follicle. Now this Graafian follicle, to give out the ovum, you have only LH. So LH hormone will help the egg to come out of the Graafian follicle, and then you have the corpus luteum. So corpus luteum will produce a hormone called as progesterone, and this progesterone will take care of the 9 months pregnancy. Okay, so the answer is LH and FSH in A, In B, it is only LH, and in C, it is progesterone. Okay. So let us come to the second question. The membranous cover of the ovum at ovulation is, so which is the membranous cover? Okay, which has cells on it. Okay, so it is corona radiata, zona radiata, zona pellucida, chorion. The answer is corona radiata, which is a membranous covering. Membranous means it is made up of cells. Now you can ask me a question, why not zona pellucida? Zona pellucida cannot be because it is a non-cellular layer. It will not have any cells. Whereas corona radiata is a cellular layer. It is made up, it is a membrane. Therefore, the answer is corona radiata. Now, the next question is, the third question is, which of the following hormones is not secreted by the human placenta? So please remember that not word. So it is a negative question. Okay. So you have to underline this not because it is a negative question. We have to remove the odd one from here. Okay. So which is not secreted by the human placenta. So as I said, placenta will produce those 4 hormones. Let's see what is the answer. You have HCG, human chorionic gonadotrophin. You have estrogens. You have progesterone, and you have LH. Now let us remove the wrong ones. Okay. So HCG, it is produced by the placenta. So it is not related to this question. So it is wrong. Estrogens, it is also produced. Progesterone, okay, that is also produced by the placenta. So LH is not produced by the placenta. LH is produced by other hormone, that is, it is produced by Sertoli cells. Sertoli cells produce this luteinizing hormone. So therefore this is the correct option. So LH is the correct option, which is not produced by the placenta. Now let us move on to the fourth question. This is a match the following question, a very easy question, but it takes about 2 to 3 minutes to solve this question. Now if you talk about here, see here you have column 1 and column 2. You have to match column 1 with column 2. How do we do it? So I remember when you were in first standard, second standard, third standard, you have to take, you are taking a scale and doing the match the following. I prefer you to do that. Take a scale and correctly line the part. Okay. So here you have trophoblast. I already told trophoblast is the outer layer of blastocyst which will attach to the endometrium. So A3. Okay. So here you have two options with A3. Okay. So next, cleavage. I already told what is cleavage. Cleavage is nothing but mitotic division of the zygote. So A3, A4. So you can see here, B is the correct option because C is A3, B1. So that is wrong. But we have to convince this two also. So let us see. Inner cell mass. Which is the inner cell mass? I already told embryoblast. So group of cells that would differentiate as embryo. So C2. Correct? C2. Then implantation. Embedding of the blastocyst in the endometrium. So the option is B. So this is how you are going to be solving the MCQ questions for both CET and NEET. I hope I have conveyed you something. Right. So next, moving on to the fifth question, cleavage. You have to choose the incorrect statement from the following. Okay. So this is also very important and very puzzled questions here. You have to choose the incorrect question, not the correct. So this is a negative question. In birds and mammals, internal fertilization takes place. This is correct. We all know birds and mammals undergo what? Internal fertilization. Next, the second option, the second statement is colostrum contains antibodies and nutrients. Just now I said that is also correct. The third one is polyspermy in mammals is prevented by the chemical change in the egg surface. Okay. The last option is in the human female, implantation occurs almost 7 days after fertilization. So that is also correct. But here, see, this is very puzzle. That is, polyspermy in males is prevented by the chemical change. It is not inside the egg surface, but it is on the egg surface. So you have to be very careful when you mark such questions. So option C is the correct, which is not correct. Okay, it is incorrect question, incorrect statement. Okay, next, sixth is identify the correct statement. Here it is a positive question. You have to identify the correct statement from the following, which is correct. Okay, so first is high levels of estrogens trigger the ovulatory surge. That is wrong. Okay, let me correct that. Okay, high levels of LH, it is LH which will trigger the ovulatory surge, not estrogen. But that is not the option required here. Okay, the B option is oogonial cells start to proliferate and give rise to functional ovum in regular cycles from puberty onwards. Yes, the oogonials will start proliferating and they give rise to the oogonial cells will start proliferating and give rise to functional ovum in the regular cycles from puberty onwards. That is wrong. The eggs will be already produced. Okay, the eggs are going to be produced before puberty itself. They'll be already ready. Okay, next. So that is a wrong statement. Next, sperms released from seminiferous tubules are highly motile. I told no. The sperms will gain the motility capacity only after they come from epididymis. And I told it is capacitation. So that is also a wrong statement. Progesterone levels is high during the post-ovulatory phase of menstrual cycle. This is the correct statement. Okay, because the at the post ovulatory phase the corpus luteum will be formed and that will be starting to produce the progesterone. So therefore progesterone will be very high at the post ovulatory phase. So the option is D. So at least by giving these 6 questions, I've tried to make you think about the MCQ which you get in both PUC, CET and NEET. So now as the MCQs are included in PUC, we have to also consider MCQ questions also. We cannot ignore these because it is for 15 marks. Okay. Next, last, there's nothing but thank you. If you have any queries, if you have any problems, if you have not understood any point in this seminar, you can always email me. I have my email. I have given my email ID in the slide. You can always email and you can ask me the questions, whatever you have. Okay. All the best, students. Have a bright future. Thank you, sir. Can I do it?
Yes, please tell me.
Okay, sir, I need to give a talk on these topics. So that will actually enrich my knowledge. And I would like to thank Ramesh sir for considering me as a resource person. And I would like to thank you, sir, Siddhegowda sir, because you every time you give me call and you boost me to give my slides in a better way. Thanks a lot, sir. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Thank you. ಸೊ ಯಾವುದೇ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಮೇಡಮ್, ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಏನಾದ್ರು ಇದ್ರೆ ನಾನು ಐ ಸೆಂಡ್ ಥ್ರೂ ಯುವರ್ ಮೇಲ್.
ಓಕೆ ಸರ್,
ನಾನು ಕಳಿಸ್ಕೊಡ್ತೀನಿ. ಸೊ ಸ್ಟೂಡೆಂಟ್ಸ್ ಈಗ ಆಲ್ರೆಡಿ ನೀವು ಮಧ್ಯೆ ಕ್ವಶನ್ಸ್ ಯಾರು ಇವತ್ತು ಅಟೆಂಡ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಇಮ್ಮೆನ್ಸ್ಲಿ ಫಾರ್ ಡೆಲಿವರಿಂಗ್ ಎ ವೆರಿ ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಟಿವ್ ಅಂಡ್ ಇನ್ಸೈಟ್ಫುಲ್ ಟಾಕ್ ಆನ್ ರಿಪ್ರೊಡಕ್ಷನ್ ಇನ್ ಹ್ಯೂಮನ್.
ಓಕೆ
ಈ
ಸರ್.
ಒಂದು ಟಾಪಿಕ್ ಮೇಲೆ ನೀವು ಕೊಟ್ಟಂತ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವು ವಿದ್ಯಾರ್ಥಿಗಳಿಗೆ ಭಾರಿ ಸರಳವಾಗಿ ಕನ್ನಡ ಮತ್ತು 2 ಇಂಗ್ಲಿಷ್ ಎರಡರಲ್ಲೂ ಕೂಡ ಕೆಲವು ಇನ್ಫಾರ್ಮೇಶನ್ಗಳ ಜೊತೆ ಭಾರಿ ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ತಿಳಿಸ್ಕೊಟ್ಟಿದ್ದಾರೆ. ಸೊ ಬಿಹಾಫ್ ಆಫ್ KST and myself, thank you lecturers and my colleagues. So once again I thanks to all. Once again thank you ma'am.
Thank you sir. Thank you very much.
ನಾಳಿನ ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮ ನಮ್ಮ ಕರ್ನಾಟಕ ವಿಜ್ಞಾನ ತಂತ್ರಜ್ಞಾನ ಅಕಾಡೆಮಿ ವತಿಯಿಂದ ತಿಳಿಸುತ್ತಾ ಈ ಒಂದು ಉಪನ್ಯಾಸ ಕಾರ್ಯಕ್ರಮವನ್ನು ಧನ್ಯವಾದಗಳೊಂದಿಗೆ ಮುಗಿಸುತ್ತಿದ್ದೇವೆ. ಓಕೆ, ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಮ್ಯಾಮ್.
ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಸರ್. ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು.